All right, good evening everyone and welcome to tonight's council meeting. First of all, council would like to extend its acknowledgement of the Wadawurrung people as the traditional owners of the lands, waterways, under the incredible skies. Yep, thank you. We can turn the volume up. We pay respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and we acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are here and part of the Greater Geelong community today. Now, this meeting is being broadcast on the internet and the recording of the meeting will be published on Council's website. Good evening, everybody. My name is Trent Sullivan and as the Mayor of Greater Geelong, I will be chairing the July Council meeting tonight. Thank you to everybody who is in attendance. So welcome to the Geelong City Hall and hello to all the community members both here in person and online as well. It is fantastic to be joined by residents and we look forward to getting to hear your questions as well during the Q&A time this evening. A few things going on though in our city over the last month and our wider region, and by now you would all be aware of the decision taken by Premier Andrews and his government last week to cancel the 2026 Commonwealth Games. Council entered into its co-hosting arrangement and we have significantly invested in that time frame. So we've invested time, resources and staff and we're very disappointed that there's been a halt and a cancellation to this. It's very, very disappointing. But since then we have had announcements of continued investment from the state and we're very much looking forward to seeing these come to fruition and benefiting our region. The Games were marketed as a once-in-a-generation opportunity and we fully intend to take advantage of any and continued funding involved with this. And we certainly want community to have input into what is delivered going forward in these local areas. Now, before we get things undergoing into the reports for this evening, I would like to welcome our newest councillor, Councillor Sarah Hathaway, who joins us, who not only is here in person, but here with the support crowd as well. Fantastic to have everybody here and joining us tonight for the first time at this end of the chamber. So welcome, Councillor Hathaway. Sarah has been a passionate advocate for the northern suburbs for many years now, and I know that she'll be a wonderful addition to the councillor group. Now, we certainly have a number of questions from the community to get through, so I'll be going through the process so we can get into it. Councillors, I'll be asking for strict adherence to speaking time limits tonight. Now, in terms of apologies, we have apologies from Bruce Harwood and Ron Nelson, councillors both. Any other apologies or leaves of absence to be noted? Councillor Aiken.
Oh, no, sorry. I thought we were voting for the apologies. So.
You're again one step ahead of me. That's all good. If there are no more, to be noted for Bruce and to be noted for Ron, I'll need a mover. Thank you, Councillor Contell. Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. Declarations of conflict of interest. Are there any declarations to be made in relation to tonight's agenda? Councillor Contell.
At this point in time, Mr Mayor, at this point in time, I have two. The first one is 2.4, which is the Northwest Growth Zone. In line with my previous conflicts on this item, at least one of the developers is a customer of the business of which I'm a director. So I'll be stepping out for that. And at the moment, at least for 2.5, which is the international delegation, a company of which I'm a director on the advisory board has a memorandum of understanding and also a business relationship with Hanwha. So I'll be stepping out for that at this point in time.
Councillor Contell, they are noted. Any other conflicts? If any do arise throughout the meeting, please make them known. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder to confirm the minutes of the council meeting held on the 27th of June 2023. Do I have a mover? Councillor Mason, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Contell. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? They are carried. All right, public question and submission time. This next lot is specifically available for questions and submissions rather than a forum for discussion. In accordance with our policy, 45 minutes will be set aside for question time, providing for each person to address the council for 3 minutes per question or submission, with no more than 2 questions asked or submissions made per person. A maximum time limit of 3 minutes applies to each asked question or submission as stated. Questions and submissions provided in writing prior to the meeting will be considered first. And after this, if time permits, Members of the gallery will be given an opportunity to ask a question or make a submission. However, if it is in relation to an agenda item, councillors won't be able to provide you with a direct answer, as you'll be hearing us debate it shortly, and I don't want them to be precluded from that conversation. I note that there are some questions relating to an agenda item tonight, which are directed at councillors, mostly being 2.5. As this item is being considered tonight, councillors won't be able to answer it directly during public question time. For those who have pre-submitted questions but are not present tonight, responses to your questions have been published on the council's website and will also be emailed to you. It is also important to note that each councillor has read and considered the questions which have been sent in. For tonight's meeting, I have received pre-submitted questions from 18 community members, and these individuals and their topics of interest are, I'm just going to go through the entire list for the public record, names and subjects, and then after that, I'll then be asking people to come up individually. So the questions and submissions made are from Dylan Pascos, mobile food permits, John Glasbrook, declaration of nuclear-free zone and federal funding of Geelong Public Hospital, Dean Hurlston, cost shifting from state government, Ginny, heavy vehicle use in the city, Liz Bonner, social housing plan 2020-2041, Andy Medic, hire of council-owned or managed properties, refusal of bookings, Charles Street, energy from waste incinerator in Lara, Bernie Frankie, establishment of Finesford Tip, Helen Clark, C463GGEE Balmoral Quay Stage 5, Vicky Parrott, air pollution and energy from waste incinerator in Lara, Mandy Bridges, notice of motion by Councillor Nelson, library service delivery, Mary Lara, upcoming international delegate opportunities, Jenna Wade, response to antisocial, anti-racist behaviour within the city, Felicity Dales, G21 subscription, Louis DeCoca, development application for 2 Morven Court in Highton, Tegan Mitchell, strategic planning for the south of the city, and Simon Tolson, Regional Projects Victoria and the RGYC Sale School buildings, Diane Cunningham, and Smart Cities. Now, can I please have a show of hands of all the names I just read out? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
I have one other conflict of interest. If Helen Clark is going to be coming up to talk about the Balmoral Quay matter, I'll be stepping out as I have a family member that lives in Balmoral Crescent and would be impacted by that development.
Thank you, Councillor Contell. I'm just writing that down now. Thank you. All right, we'll now move into inviting people up. Do I have Dylan Pascos here this evening? Dylan Pascos? John Glasbrook? John Glasbrook? Dean Hurlston? Dean Hurlston? Ginny, with a J. Ginny. Liz Bonner. Liz. How are you, Liz?
Great, thank you. Today I come as a member of the organising committee of the Real Deal for Geelong. We are an alliance of community organisations, faith groups, unions and invested community members working to put people and communities at the centre of policy and politics. We have 3 areas of focus: secure housing, meaningful work and affordable living, and care and connection. Our questions today relate most directly to housing, but the impacts flow into each of these 3 pillars. So our first question is, what progress has been made against the Social Housing Plan 2020 to 2041? What are against those recommended strategies and actions? Question
Please.
is, Inclusionary zoning within the social housing plan states increase the supply of social housing from the current 3% to 7% of total households by 2031, an estimated increase of supply of 6,000 dwellings to 10% by 2041, a further 6,000 dwellings. What is the current level being achieved, and what is the requirement, or what is required for new developments? So we want to establish a baseline of accountability.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for your question, Liz. I'll go to our Director of Planning and Design, our expert in planning, Gail Smith, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks for coming along to ask the question tonight, Liz. The City's Social Housing Plan outlines the recommended strategies in leadership, planning, investment and partnerships. The City has made progress in all of these strategic areas, and this includes completing the social housing planning requirements for 5 key strategic planning areas across the region and negotiating for social and affordable housing contributions as part of new estates and housing projects. In addition, Council's endorsed the establishment of Affordable Housing Trust and is currently considering feedback on the potential use of 3 Council-owned sites for social housing. We're continuing to advocate and collectively with other councils to influence Commonwealth Government policy, particularly the National Housing Accord. City is also advocating for mandatory planning controls and an appropriate framework for inclusionary zoning, which would be more effective than the current voluntary system. Charlotte. The City supports the work of the Victorian Government on delivering the big housing build and implementation of the Social Housing Growth Fund, and continue working with the state government agencies for urban renewal partnership opportunities. So there's a fair bit of detail there for your question 1. And into question 2, as of March of 2022, the City recorded a total of 4,988 social housing dwellings, representing 4% of the total dwellings in the City. This is a 16% increase in social housing since the adoption of the Social Housing Plan. There are approximately 200 additional dwellings anticipated for Greater Geelong funding by the big housing build. These dwellings are currently in the planning stages and delivery is expected to take place in the next 2 to 3 years. There are 12,800 remaining social housing dwellings required to be built to achieve 7% of total dwellings forecasted in 2041. This will require 23.5% of all new dwellings to be delivered as social housing from now until 2041, which is obviously a significant gap to fill. The City remains committed to the strategies in the Social Housing Plan and will continue to seek the support from the state and federal governments. And thanks again for asking that really important question.
Thank you, Liz. All right, we have former member of the Legislative Council, Andy Maddock, here this evening. Andy. Why, Andy?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I'm well, thank you, and thank you for hearing my question this evening. And before I start, though, I would like to express my sincere congratulations to Councillor Sarah Hathaway on her ascension to Council, and I have every faith that she will represent those people from the Windermere Ward to Pettibull, the city's north, with all the vigour that she's shown right throughout her career so far. So congratulations. Now, to my question, it's come to both mine and the broader community's notice that the far-right group My Place has not only established itself in Geelong, but is attending council meetings of the various LGAs across the entire region. These groups are well known for their abusive and disruptive behaviour to councillors, councils and council staff, largely based upon their misleading and misplaced conspiracy theories, their hatred, their bigotry and transphobia, and their links to the political party Australia One. It has also come to notice that they are using the Newcombe Public Library meeting rooms to hold their regular meetings. Now, given their history, their exhibited behaviour and platform, all of which are at odds with Council's inclusive policies and platforms, it is both abhorrent and would seem in contravention of those same policies to allow them to use any council-managed venue. Will the councillors resolve to instruct all council-owned or managed properties to refuse bookings for My Place?
Thank you for your question, Andy. We'll go to the Director of Customer, Community and Economy for the response there, please.
Thanks for the questions, Andy. Council is committed to inclusive practices and to strongly responding where hatred, bigotry or transphobia occurs in public council forums. Council has a responsibility to provide public meeting spaces to all and cannot deny a group access on the basis of their political affiliation. While this inquiry relates to a space managed by the Geelong Regional Library Corporation, we can state that for any hire of council halls, groups must behave in accordance with the relevant hire conditions and be respectful of the space and the people around them. In the case of any misconduct or disrespectful behaviour shown to other patrons or staff, they would be asked to leave. Thank you.
Can I have a response to that? I understand, and
I understand, Andy, but this is, as I said at the start, this is not a forum for debate
No,
backing and forward, so it's just the
ask-
pre-submitted questions right now.
The question is really not about the political affiliation, it is about their exhibited behaviours of transphobia, etc.
Understand.
That would be reason to do so.
Absolutely. Something certainly the council does not endorse. Thank you. All right. We'll go for Charles Street, please.
Mayor, if I may, sorry.
Sorry, 1 second for me. Councillor Cadwell.
If I may, I just wanted to refer to Andy's previous question. Obviously, I sit on the library board. In fact, a couple of us on this council do actually sit on the board, and we can certainly raise that with the Library Corp as well. Thanks for your question.
And if I might just add, it's a good point raised by Andy Medic, and it might prompt a conversation between councillors at another time, I think.
Well noted. How are you, Charles?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, councillors, and also congratulations to Councillor Sarah Hathaway on your election to the Windermere Ward, where I come from. Thank you. Good evening, councillors. My name is Charles Street. I am a retired biochemist and science teacher, now resident in Lara, near my daughter and grandchildren. I refer to the proposal from Prospect Hill International, or PHI, to construct and operate an energy from waste incinerator in Lara. My family is deeply concerned about the potential health risks to ourselves and our community. PHI submitted a development licence application to the Environment Protection Authority, EPA, for a 400,000 tonne per annum waste to energy facility back in April of 21. I've read the 1900 plus pages of their documentation, and I am far from satisfied that the proponents have addressed the relevant issues. I have emailed you all a copy of our latest submission to the EPA, which outlines the multitude of flaws in the PHI application. Their numbers don't add up. I've calculated that Western Victoria has at most only 110,000 tonnes of realistically available red top bin and commercial and industrial waste. So where will the other 290,000 tonnes come from? We fear that they may import waste in ships into the Port of Geelong, which we consider an abuse of an EPA licence. So my question has a few parts. First one, has Council seen a proposed contract from the proponents for incineration of waste? Does Council know if the incinerator business will operate as a franchise or similar? Has Council made any undertakings to supply Prospect Hill International with waste in the future? Will Council resist any attempt to import waste into our region for incineration? So that's my first question.
I think you better, I'll let you keep rolling, Charles, in the second one, because the response has sort of all of the above.
Okay, thank you. Most importantly tonight, I want to make you aware of the research findings of Dr. Peter Tate and 10 other health professionals from the Australian National University. Tate et al. Found a range of adverse health effects were identified including significant associations with some neoplasia or cancers, congenital abnormalities or birth defects, infant deaths and miscarriage. I'm quoting. Ingestion, that is eating contaminated food, was the dominant exposure pathway for the public. Newer incinerator technologies may reduce exposure, may. The good doctors, Dr. Tate and colleagues, recommended that new incinerators should be located away from areas of food production and that food grown near an incinerator should be avoided. They concluded, based on a precautionary principle, there is insufficient evidence to conclude that any incinerator is safe. Consequences of incinerator-contaminated food being produced in the city of Greater Geelong are unthinkable. And yet, the incinerator site is embedded in farming and residential areas. There are 9 childcare centres, 7 schools and 3 aged care residences within 5 kilometres of the facility. So my question, as the representative from the Lara Care Group, will Council work with the community to oppose the Prospect Hill International Incinerator in Lara and any other big incinerator proposals for the city of Greater Geelong? And I've gone on to quote Dr. Tate's paper or show you the full title and where you can get it.
I certainly appreciate it, Charles. As you understand, that this application is under final consideration by the Minister themselves for this planning application, and the City has a certain role to play in the process. We shall now go to our Director again for a response to outline that greater.
Thank you, Mayor, and certainly thanks for the questions, because it's a really important topic and one's very significant, particularly the northern suburbs. I'll go off a little bit script from the answer, because I don't think it deals with some of those early questions you asked regarding about the tonnage, the ships, etc. As city officers, we are dealing it as a referral authority to the state government on advice around the planning scheme. So we're not working with the proponents on any of that detail, so we certainly don't have the answers to those questions. We're not engaging with them on that at all. And that goes to, I guess, the point as well you asked, have we got any undertakings or agreements with them? No, we're not in discussions about any of that. Our pure role at the moment is as a referral authority, and we're obliged to provide that independent advice to EPA and state government, etc., and otherwise, on that about how it might apply to the planning scheme. That's the policy, I guess, as officers we have to work with at the moment on this particular proposal. So, and as you would be aware, as the Mayor just mentioned, is actually before the Minister to be considered as well. We would certainly continue to encourage you and other community members to continue to work with the state government on that process. And it's great to hear you've been participating in the EPA process, but also the Department of Transport and Planning, I guess, for these next phases as well. We certainly encourage it. It's a really important topic, and it's great the work you've done. You contribute to feed that into there. So, thank you.
So whilst we consider everything that you've said, Charles, your considerations are definitely valid, but they are topics and items which the council does not have input into the state government in regards to that part of the planning application. So our remit is very, very specific in what we can advise on, and that is a lot of information which is outside those realms. So again, as I said, we definitely encourage you to talk to the Department of Transport and Planning to voice these concerns, and that's sort of the way the community has their input and council has their input through their defined remit. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bernie Frank. Is Bernie Frank here this evening? Alan Clark? All right, Councillor Contell will be leaving the chamber at 6:25.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Helen.
The Minister for Planning has been asked to authorise Amendment C463GGEE, which is the combined amendment and planning permit application for Balmoral Quay Stage 5. However, the authorisation has not yet been granted, as it's still being considered by the Minister in the Department of Transport and Planning. This amendment seeks, among other matters, to increase the permissible building height from the currently approved 13.5 metres to 28.2 metres, enabling the provision of 84 apartments. It also seeks to reduce the number of car parks. There'll be considerable impact on the local residents and on the Rippleside community more broadly, arising from, for example, a significant and untenable increase in traffic, loss of amenity, distortion of heritage values, and overshadowing. Could Council please advise whether the Minister for Planning has now approved the release of the proposed amendment, and if so, the timing for public exhibition?
Thank you for the question, Helen. I'm the Director of Planning and Design again.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Helen. And I know you're aware now because none of the team spoke to you this week, so we have a different answer for you this month, which is great, of course. So, Council was advised yesterday the official authorisation of this amendment by the Minister, and the Department of Transport and Planning officers will now work on the timelines for the exhibition, so we can't confirm that today. We'll map that out with them and definitely obviously communicate to all interested stakeholders in the local community. And as you're aware, that goes onto our website as well with the existing database to communicate that as soon as we know that. Thank you.
So we've got some new information now for you that has been authorised, but there'll be further information about a timeline released soon. Thank you, Helen. Councillor Contel. Councillor Contel will rejoin the chamber at 6:28. Submitted number 10 is Vicky Perrott. How are you, Vicky?
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening to all the councillors, and also my congratulations to Sarah. I'm here tonight as representing the members of Geelong Sustainability, who are very concerned about the massive incinerator proposed by Prospect Hill International in Lara. My first question relates to the toxic air pollution that will be around, caused by this facility. According to the World Health Organization, air pollution is one of the greatest environmental risks to public health. All waste incinerators, regardless of technology, produce pollution. It cannot be eliminated. It can only be managed by extensive air pollution controls and regular maintenance and monitoring. Some of the gases that PHI expects the facility to produce will include carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, ozone, sulfur dioxide, coarse and fine particulate matter, which is called PM10 and PM2.5, as well as dioxins, furans, and various heavy metals. Some of these chemicals have no safe exposure threshold. Data from the Centre for Air Pollution and Energy and Health Research shows that Lara and many parts of Greater Geelong region already experience high levels of the fine particulate matter. This is what's not filtered out by your nose hair. It ends up in your lungs, right into your body, which is responsible for lung diseases, cancer, pneumonia, stroke, neurological diseases, adverse birth outcomes, and also affects children worse because they breathe more rapidly. So my first question is to councillors, are you aware that many suburbs in Geelong, including Lara, already have air pollution above the safe limits set by the World Health Organization?
I'll get you to keep on rolling, Vicky, because your questions might be very similar. The responses might be very similar to the last one in regards to how we can do, but I think you now know that all councillors here are familiar, now aware because of your question.
Okay, all right, I will move on, but I would like to say to councillors, I would like to hear your answers to that first question. My second question relates to the lack of social licence within our community for this incineration project or any in our region. PHI does not have a social licence with the affected communities. They've held one community meeting on the 13th of July 2021 and are using COVID as an excuse for not holding any more. The community wants zero waste solutions. The inferior waste management approach will entrench a linear economy and take us away in totally the wrong direction. The European Commission now classifies waste incineration in the same category as nuclear and coal energy. It's removed all renewable energy subsidies and recommends old incinerators be decommissioned and no new ones built. So what are we doing here in Australia? Around the state and the nations, communities are struggling to fight these many incinerator projects that are popping up. They impose, it's not appropriate that they impose huge incinerators on communities that do not want them, and I would say that this city doesn't need it. Yeah, the ACT has listened to the community and has actually banned incineration projects now. In New South Wales, the Bayside and Randwick City Councils listened to community concerns and facilitated a successful campaign, which has now seen the New South Wales Government ban a proposed 165,000 tonne facility at Matreville. So previous to what your answer to Charles, we understand COG is a referral authority, but there is precedent for councils acting. So my question is, will council work with the community to oppose the PHI incinerator at Lara? There is precedent, and will you help us organise a similar campaign?
Yep. Appreciate your question, Vicky. I do understand there's precedent in other jurisdictions. However, as you'll be aware, the framework we operate in Victoria is different to New South Wales and the ACT, but I'll go to my director for a response.
Thank you. And certainly, again, it was great highlighting the particular issues, and the first question regarding the air quality for councillors and also officers to look further into, so we appreciate you raising those. And we also, the greater issues also that have been raised by Charles and yourself into this area, look, as we responded with Charles as well, we are at this stage, our role is actually acting as a referral authority, and that's about providing that independent advice and feedback regarding the application consistency with the planning scheme is our current role that we're performing. As you'll be aware, the planning permit for this application determined by the Minister for Planning, and we obviously will continue to encourage our community to always participate in those state-led processes to make sure the government can make informed decisions at time with the information you provide.
Thank you, Vicky.
Can I just say that we come here to ask questions of our councillors, and it's really disappointing when all of the questions are answered by the staff.
Vicky, I understand your position, but we go to the expert authorities. Councillor Mason. Microphone, please.
Mr Mayor, I'd just like to say a few words and thank Vicky and Geelong Sustainability and related groups for the work that they do, for their social and environmental conscience, and to keep us alert to the various problems that we have. I understand that we don't have much control over this particular, the approvals for this particular facility, but many of us understand that the circular economy requires us to use less and less waste and to find ways of designing the commodities that we use in the packaging so that it's minimised. There may well be a case for some sort of incineration for certain minor quantities of material, but in my opinion, a large facility requires to be continually fed and works in a counterproductive way to our circular economy. So even as a matter of principle, I don't support it. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one, but there is a case for smaller, very much smaller, perhaps I wouldn't want to call it waste to energy, but disposal systems that might include incineration. Thank you.
Councillor Mason. Councillor Hathaway.
There we go. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Vicky and Charles, and I want to acknowledge the emails that you've already sent and other members of Geelong Sustainability. I've learnt something tonight. I was not aware that Geelong was already above what is considered to be safe levels of air pollution, so thank you. I guess just acknowledging or echoing some of Jim's comments, I know that there are a number of councillors that are very passionate about the environment, would be very receptive to hearing more from you. We know this project is in Lara, but it sounds from what you're saying it's going to impact more of Geelong, not just those in Lara. I personally would be happy to come out and meet with you. I just would also like to say that COG does have a track record of writing to the state government on other planning projects, in particular the proposed gas import terminal in Corio Bay, but that took a lot, as you know, I'm sure I'm preaching to the converted, it took a lot of work and liaising and lobbying for community, for council to make that response. So please keep lobbying and feeding us information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. Councillor Murray.
Yeah, look,
Sorry, Councillor Murray, then Maloney.
Thanks, Vicky, and I don't mind answering that first question. And my answer to that is no, I wasn't aware, and I would be surprised if other councillors were quite aware of that as well. So I thank you for your work and your education that you inform councillors on, but certainly educated me on some facts tonight, and as Charles as well. So I thank you for your work, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Maloney.
Thanks, Mayor Sullivan, and thank you, Vicky, for your dogged determination in this area. I know we've been to quite a few events together. I'm very well aware of the current state of air pollution in Geelong, and also the sudden arising of PFAS, forever chemicals, that are also distributed by such incinerator systems. I'm also aware that we're regularly sprayed with strontium, barium and aluminium. For some of you, those are the Alzheimer's creating chemicals, and they're also forever chemicals that are very hard to purge from the body. So I think that perhaps the local community needs to know this, and that we don't want that. I'd like to see a few more people informed of that, and perhaps some vocal retort from us. And also to your latter point, Vicky, about the officers responding, I would really welcome the opportunity for us to respond perhaps in a chorus. I know that sometimes it is conflicting. We want to get through everything. It's going to be a long, wild night if we end up all having a say on everything. It is tricky. So I think we're all passionate about our community. There's no lie. I think every single one of us is, here for a reason. But perhaps we might make an effort to comment a bit more diligently, or at least speak out when we need to, because some of us perhaps are just wanting to reiterate the comments of officers, or perhaps keeping quiet because we want the show to roll on. So hopefully we can maybe exercise a little bit more care in the next few meetings. But thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. All right. Mandy Bridges. Is Mandy here this evening? Mary Lara? Mary Lara. Jenna Wade? Is Jenna Wade here this evening? There we are. Hi, Jenna.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. First of all, congratulations, Sarah. Great to have you over there. It was nice having you over here, but nice to see you representing the community, especially Norlane. Okay, I'm just going to read my question out because it's a bit easier. It's pretty formalised for me. I'm used to hanging around Lab Square Commons. In response to recent media coverage of negative racist actions in Geelong, our Norlane community members decided to take action to promote a safe, welcoming and inclusive community by painting banners and gathering together at the City Hall steps tonight. However, acknowledgement of racism by leaders at every level, from community groups and representatives of local government, is essential and necessary. With consistent and timely messaging around the Council's support for social justice, equity and inclusion, we can ensure that all community members feel safe and welcome. At a Meet Your Councillor, Sarah, thank you for coming, event in Norlane, community members suggested that Council respond to the negative racist actions with a poster campaign to promote social justice, equity and inclusion. We want to see a strong and timely response from Geelong Council to support our voices of unity and solidarity for all community members. Will the City of Greater Geelong's elected representatives here tonight listen to the voices of the community and prioritise a timely response to racism in Geelong? Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna. Well said. have a response from Acting Director of Customer, Community and Economy.
Great, thanks for the questions, Jenna. Our response over the past week has been to proactively highlight Geelong's strong multicultural community with positive messages rather than responding to or amplifying the voice of the very small minority. The City issued a media release on Monday the 17th of July which highlighted the 82 new Australian citizens we had just welcomed via a citizenship ceremony at City Hall. And we also shared these photos on our social media channels. All up, we have now conferred close to 900 new Australian citizens so far this year, and we're proud to have welcomed all of those people as valued members of the Geelong community. On Wednesday, under the Mayor's instigation, we arranged a photo on the steps of City Hall featuring councillors with community leaders and members from several different cultural groups. We shared this via our social media channels with positive messages of the benefits of multiculturalism. We have absolutely no hesitation in saying that Geelong is a place where people of all cultural backgrounds are welcome and included. Around 50,000 Greater Geelong residents were born overseas, and our cultural diversity is one of the community's great strengths. New arrivals to our region contribute individually to our community in a variety of ways and collectively add to the rich cultural fabric of our city. This is something we value so much and will continue to foster and support. You can read more about our support for cultural diversity via our Multicultural Action Plan, which is available on our website and is currently under review. With regard to your suggestion of a poster campaign, this is an initiative the City will investigate internally, so thank you.
Good time. Yeah.
Thank you, Jenna. Felicity Dales.
To attend tonight, so I'm Diane Cunningham. I'm reading on her behalf.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you. Good evening to all here tonight. Okay. The COG membership of G21 is due to expire in April 2024, with the decision not to continue. My understanding is that it is a $500,000 subscription annually. Can you please outline what the return on investment has been for this annual subscription since 2000, and what you consider to be successful from this expenditure, along with what you wouldn't consider a great outcome for that investment? So Felicity's actual questions, what would you do differently knowing what you know now? Why have you decided not to continue? And are you redirecting those funds to something else?
Thank you, Diane, for asking those questions on behalf of Felicity. I can respond to that one directly because as this matter is confidential in nature, unfortunately we're unable to provide further details on our relation to your question this evening. All allocations of funds are clearly articulated in the council budget, which is published on our website, but as the decision around G21 was a confidential one, I'm not at liberty to disclose those details. Diane, whilst you're up here, you have a question submitted as well?
I do.
Yeah, we might just get straight to that then, in the effort of saving time.
That's good. Okay, now my personal question. I recently attended a COG Smart City Forum, which was organised by the Smart City representative, Adam Molam. In response to many questions from community groups in the COG who are very concerned about this global initiative and its ties with the World Economic Forum, this initiative can also be known as 15 20-minute cities. The Mayor, Trent Sullivan, thank you, spoke to you there, and other council officials were also in attendance. Many concerns were raised and have also been raised many times at council meetings since earlier in the year. A major point that came up twice on the evening was the lack of knowledge most of the residents of COG have of this initiative. A petition a small group ran on the subject revealed that 95% of those approached had never heard of this initiative. There needs to be more transparency from the council, given this has the potential to impact the community in many ways going forward. I would like to ask the following. What council proposed to do to raise the awareness within the community about this initiative? And will council also communicate progress by informing the community regularly of steps, stages and timelines, including what has already been implemented?
Next question, Diane. I've got to Director Gav Smith for a response.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Diane. Look, firstly, before I get to the specific answers to the two questions, just a bit of an introductory one which relates to the petition. So the Smart City petition actually did cover, as I understand, numerous topics that sort of inferred or suggested to fall under the Geelong Smart City banner, such as digital currency, digital IDs, gender identity, COVID injections, lockdowns, and so forth. None of these fall under local government remit or relate to the Geelong City Smart program. Others, such as the CCTV and 5G, have some relevance, but we felt accurately represented in the survey, so will impact the results. Specifically to the two questions you asked, so what council will propose to do to raise awareness? Great question. The Smart City program is being, we believe, misrepresented, has a range of negative consequences both for residents and council, so it's important we share information out. To help me raise that awareness, we've undertaken the following things. The Smart City information session was aimed at providing factual information about the program and address some of those concerns that are being raised. The Smart City Department, which is actually the smallest department in council, I believe, have completed 4 media releases in the last few months as well to help push those messages out. Updated Smart City information across the corporate website's also been done, with social media being actively seeking promotional opportunities for current projects. Lastly, it should be noted that the urban innovation crosses many council department areas, and the awareness of smart cities is often tied up with a broader project. And some of those examples, such as use of mobile apps to identify tree hollows, or the use of data to inform parking in the CBD. And this best represents the Geelong vision for using data and technology to improve livability, sustainability, and economic prosperity. And with the second part of the question, will council also communicate to progress by informing the community regularly on steps going forward? The formal progress report will be actually delivered. The strategy was endorsed in March 21. It's normally then provided a progress report 2 years from that. So we're actually into that year at the moment. So we are looking at later this calendar year to have a formal report coming to council to provide that update that you're after. The progress report will cover all the activities and initiatives that are part of the work program, which is outlined in the Smart City implementation plan, and that can be, of course, found on our website, which I think we've provided in the past as well. So thank you again for the questions.
Thank you. Can I just make one other point to the
So we're not taking points, so we're just going to go through everybody who's got a pre-submitted question, Diane, and that's the time at the end we'll re-rotate.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Trent.
Mr Mayor.
Councillor Quintel.
Yes, Diane, just wanted to applaud you for coming in. I've seen you come to quite a number of meetings now, and
I think I should be getting paid now.
you're obviously a capable speaker, because a lot of people get you to ask questions on their behalf.
Yeah.
So well done to you. Just on this matter here, if you've got any ideas of how we could better communicate this going forward, I'd be interested in hearing them. So I'll leave a card with you, and if you've got any ideas, please push them through.
We did mention a few at the forum, but yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Well done.
Thanks,
Diane.
Thank you.
Louis De Coca.
Evening.
How are you?
Thank you, May. Apologies.
How are you?
Doing well, rushed, one of those days. But it's good to see you. Thank you so much, Mr. May, councillors, and congratulations to Sarah Hathaway from my perspective too. I have two particular questions relating to a piece of land in Highton, known as Frog Hollow, or also more formally 2 Morven Court. There is again a development application in relation to the land. During the previous application, information was provided to the council of evidence of the presence of growling grass frogs at the property. Further evidence, including evidence of a herpetologist of the University of Melbourne, was presented at the subsequent VCAT hearing, not as an expert witness. We were funding it as a community, and we believed it's sufficient to bring that information to the council, given that we can take pride in the presence of such a rare and endangered little animal within our city bounds. Now, tonight I come with three very specific questions. Firstly, what steps has the Council of Greater Geelong taken to date in relation to that information? Second question, any steps that the Council may propose to take, also in conjunction with state authorities in relation to the information? And then thirdly, any steps that can be taken to ensure the humane relocation of the frog colonies of Frog Hollow should the property be developed? Previous old swimming pool on the property that became a habitat for frogs was filled in during this process, and it was filled in as robustly as you can think. So in this case, we anticipate what will happen, and I'd like to understand what can be done to ensure humane relocation. So, three questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Lewis. I'll go to our Director, Gareth Smith, Planning and Design. Thank you, Gareth.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Lou, for the questions as well. So the information provided to the City and VCAT on the growling grass frog has not been considered as expert advice, but I take your comments that you made then was really, again, providing it in a different context. But it's how the VCAT have assessed that evidence base. In accordance with the previous VCAT decision for the planning permit application at 2 Mervyn Court, VCAT made clear that if the growling grass frog is located on the site, then the obligations under the Flora and Fauna Guarantee Act 1988 and the Federal Environment Protection Biodiversity Act 99 both come into play. These, however, are the obligations the applicant needs to address regardless of the planning considerations under the planning scheme. And I know they've given a written resubmission, but we give you the paragraph and the page numbers of the VCAT decision where you're able to go ease of access to that. Based on the VCAT's direction, Council notes that the responsibility therefore is sitting on the applicant to ensure they are complying with their obligations in the Flora and Fauna Guarantee Act. Obviously the VCAT process is a state process as well, so I guess it puts them also on notice and awareness of that, and the Department of Transport and Planning. So. Your first question?
No, my first question was, what steps has the Council taken to date in relation to that information? And we were party to the VCAT matters.
Yeah,
I do have a copy
in that
of
response, it does say that VCAT does not recognise that ground and grass frogs exist on that lot.
No,
because that's their thing. We can't. Then we have to follow that direction.
That is not what VCAT said. It was a formal matter. The person was not called to serve as an expert witness. That wasn't relevant at that stage. We provided the evidence as part of painting the biodiversity on the property. So the witness was not called to be interrogated. The evidence was not rejected. The evidence was there for the City Council to follow up and for the state authorities, and that is what we do as citizens. So hence my first question, what steps were taken based on that information?
The direction for VCAT was to follow up, then we'll have to follow up as well and see what steps have been taken in there.
It's a planning meeting. It's not, VCAT isn't there to give orders to the council. That is not what that...
Is that not what you just said though, then, that
It was a planning
VCAT said to us to follow up?
We would be more than comfortable to make a time to sit down with the officers that are actually administering the process on the planning permit and take you through that, including the Environment Department, to give us the advice on those processes regarding the opportunities of relocation and likes and how that's being considered, if you wish. Yeah. Because I take that was your point about the relocation part.
That would be good, but I think it's important that you sort out. When we interacted with them, they said this is only about the planning. They don't deal with the biodiversity issues. That's for another part of council. What we hear tonight is, if in a planning permit application, VCAT does not order us to protect rare and endangered species, then we don't do so. We don't act on that. And I don't understand that. So something...
I understand, Lewis. We'll have to follow.
I'm happy to sit down around that.
I appreciate it. We'll have to follow up on that one. We'll move on to your second lot of questions, please.
The second question deals with stormwater management on the property. So we all know part of the problem is the old, dilapidated, heightened drainage system. 2014 council report found it's inadequate to deal with the volume and velocity of water. Council looked at the options provided by their own expert and said fixing it is too expensive. So they imposed SPOs on affected properties and basically said if you build a new one, it's about to be higher. Older properties, well, tough luck, get insurance and pay for it. Now, in this case, there's a little dam and it's against a hill. And we're concerned that all of the additional hard surfaces will increase the impact on the existing drainage system. It's been modelled, which is good. The problem is there's no specific rainfall figures for Heighton available to the City Council. And secondly, the applicants used the 2014 stormwater modelling report, which was great in 2014, but is now dated due to infill development in that particular area due to the council planning scheme. So with those two inputs that are a bit dodgy, it becomes difficult to model precisely how this will interact with the system, and hence the question, what rights of recourse will affected residents of existing dwellings have if the stormwater management conditions relating to the development turn out to be insufficient and damage is suffered?
Lewis?
Thank you, Luther. Thank you. So certainly an updated flood impact report and stormwater management strategy was submitted with the recent planning application. These reports have been reviewed by Council's drainage engineers, but also importantly was assessed by an external third-party engineering company, which we will not always do with every application. And that's part of that is based off because of, like you're saying, access to the relevant data, etc. So we get that further tested. Both of these reports have been deemed accurate and acceptable, and the documents were then made available through the public notice period for the planning application, which I'm sure you're aware and have read. In terms of the evidence, the flood impact report has determined through flood modelling the proposed development can occur without creating impacts on the neighbouring properties or creating any flood hazards. The report also found that the development would be capable of conveying stormwater runoff generated through a flood event, including the 1% annual exceedance property, which is actually what we have to work towards. Your point regarding what are the options for council and legal, it's something for individuals to do. The city won't be providing the legal advice on the community what may be in that case, which we don't think will occur. It's not for us to provide that advice.
Yes.
Thank you. And just in conclusion, the actual report makes it clear no one reading it can rely on it for legal liability.
Appreciate it.
So, thank you.
All right. Everyone might have heard my alarm go off just before, which means we have gone over 45 minutes. However, we do have 2 pre-submitted questions left, which I'd like to offer the opportunity to come up and speak to. It's Tegan Mitchell in the audience this evening. Tegan. Hi, Tegan.
Pleasure to see you all again.
Pleasure's all ours. Your 3 minutes starts when you do.
As shown in your Northern and Western Geelong Growth Areas Framework Plan, August 2020, the report highlights areas that Council need to work on to ensure a clever and connected community. While this report focuses on the Northern and Western growth, however, I think our South corridors are growing faster, as highlighted by our community plan. The Armstrong Creek area at this point in time only has 2 capital council programs running, and our communities certainly feel that there are some key services missing. If you have the north covered, is the south going to see similar development and long-term planning from the council? If there is planning, where is it, and when can we see it? And will the south community get the same community focus as the north has?
two questions, Tegan, then I might
So I'm happy to read the second one.
Thank you.
Following my first question, will we see the 3 multi-purpose community centres in the north area that incorporate our neighbourhood houses such as Cloverdale, Norlane and Roswell, have our flexible community meeting spaces and our community gardens continuing to be funded to a level that suits the community? And will there be more funding for them given the budget? And is the South going to have a community centre in the near future?
Questions, Tegan? I'll go to Gav for a response.
Thanks, Tegan, and thanks for coming along to ask those questions. I'm pleased to be able to give you a bit of an update on what's happening in the south there and those projects. So the Armstrong Creek, similar to Northern Western Growth areas, the Armstrong Creek Urban Growth Plan sets the high-level vision for the development in Armstrong Creek, just like Northern Western Growth Area Framework Plan does. In accordance with the detailed plans for Armstrong Creek, Council has so far delivered the Armstrong Creek East Community Hub on Central Boulevard in 2019 and the Powerbunyal Community Hub on Unity Drive in Mount Dunedin in 2023, this year. The Armstrong Creek Library and Community Hub is...
Library that doesn't have funding.
Sorry, thank you. We'll just let him finish, please, Tegan. We're not going to have interjections either. Everybody tonight has been allowed to speak in peace. Please, we'll continue to show respect.
Thank you, Mayor. The Armstrong Creek Library and Community Hub is under construction and will open in 2024 in the town centre. The total investment of these projects is around $40 million, with funding coming from developers, state government and the council itself. The Horseshoe Bend Community Hub in Precinct Road, Cholimont, is the next hub that will be delivered in the Armstrong Creek growth area, and it's planned to open in 2027. Planning and construction is funded in Council's budget. Community engagement on the planning for the Horseshoe Bend hub will occur later this year. Additional community hubs are planned over the coming decade and to be located on Whites Road, Mount Dunedin, Warreley Boulevard and Bulvers Road, both in Armstrong Creek. Funding for the design of these hubs is included in Council's 22 to 23 to the 27-year budget, so the next 4 years as well, so which is good news as well. So there certainly is plenty of work being proposed out there and already occurred. So thank you again, Tegan.
Yeah, thank you, Tegan. All right. Is Simon or Simone Tolson here today? Simone, there we are. Simone.
Councillors and Mayor for the opportunity to ask my... you might recall that I asked questions about the South Geelong to Warren Ponds duplication a couple of months back, and I put in an FOI to RPV to try and find out more information, and I'm just after some... This is the first part of my first question. I'm just checking to see where COG is at with provision of information to RPV in relation to that FOI. And most importantly, I want to know what COG is up to with the integrated transport, where are we? Our integrated comprehensive transport plan, which I feel is a major important piece of work that needs to be done for Geelong as it's expanding exponentially.
So, and you have a second question as well?
Second question is on a different matter. It relates to the sailing school buildings at the Royal Geelong Yacht Club, which were budgeted for over 2 years ago. I've just noticed that there's a soccer strategy that's just come out, and there's been nearly $2 million assigned to the purchasing of a soccer club in Batesford, and yet this sailing school project, which is also in conjunction with the Newcombe High School, has not been furthered, and I want to know what is the reason that the sailing school project has not been furthered.
So yeah, I got our Acting Director of Customer, Community and Economy for response. Bryce Prosser.
Thanks for the question, Simone. Regarding the first question, the city's unable to provide an update on a freedom of information request from another agency. We just literally can't respond. Your query should be redirected to the agency managing the actual request.
Sorry, I'm just asking you. I know they haven't finished.
Sorry, Simone, we can't give an update because what they may or may not give at the end of the day, us responding or saying you what has or hasn't been submitted to them would then interfere with that process. So we can't give updates on FOIs, which are the utmost respective of the other authority. Understand?
And for the second question, the redevelopment of the sailing school building is part of the Geelong Waterfront Safe Harbour Precinct.
Could you respond to the integrated transport?
Sorry, Simone, we only get two questions or and a submission, as stated at the start. We've got responses here to your first and to what we believe is your second one regarding the sailing school. If you want to onto your transport network, which is valid, we have to take that on notice and get a response back to you.
That was part of the first question.
Then
Because
that's
that
two
was in
parts,
relation to
FOIs,
my-
updates on an FOI, and then update on another specific project. That's two questions.
Okay, they were actually in relation to that submission I made earlier on in the year.
I understand, but there's still three distinct answers than you want for. So we'll give you a response to the question 2, which is sailing school, and then we'll have to take the one about the network plan on notice.
So regarding the sailing school, like I said, it's part of the Geelong Waterfront Safe Harbour Precinct project. The Safe Harbour project is jointly funded by the federal government, state government, council and the Royal Geelong Yacht Club. The city's funding contribution of $3 million to the Safe Harbour project was specifically allocated to the public realm aspects of the project, namely Wongam Walk and improvements to the footpath along Eastern Beach Road. Wongam Walk was opened to the public in December 2020. The sailing school building development is directly managed by the Yacht Club with funding from the state government and the Yacht Club. The club is working with the state government and other stakeholders to commence the building works as soon as possible. The Safe Harbour project has no impact on the resources set aside for soccer. Thank you.
I'm going back to news releases at the time, and it was made quite clear that that money was going towards the sailing school.
And there's definitely money as a whole going towards the sailing school as part of the city deal upgrades. Specific extra $3 million put in by the city, also public realm upgrades, and the project now is managed by the sailing school. So we can't give direct updates on that when they're actually the body responsible for delivery. But I appreciate your concern.
So I'm assuming then that means then that the Royal Geelong Yacht Club is the organisation that is holding up the...
I couldn't say comment on holding up. There's multiple parties who are funding in this, but they're the project manager. So I haven't got updates any more than from them in a little bit of time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody, that brings to a close our question and submission time. Thank you, everybody who submitted a question this evening, and to all councillors and officers. Thank you all. Petitions and joint letters. Are there any petitions to be tabled? I'll move straight into section 2, which is reports. The first item on the agenda involves or is based on Windermere Ward Councillor Sarah Hathaway and affirmation of office. I'm happy to move this, seconded by Councillor Deputy Mayor Aiken. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. It's a great honour to be elected to represent your community, and it's not something that anyone here takes lightly. You never forget the first time you were elected, you never forget your first council meeting. And Sarah Hathaway has been a long-time advocate for the community, as I've previously stated. And I can absolutely assure everybody right now that since the first day where we rushed you after the countback was had and you came into the office and we saw you in straight away, she's been really fitting into the role very nicely and has been very active and very vocal since then, as you want from all good councillors. It gives me pleasure to move that we've got Councillor here, Hathaway, joining us. We've got 18 months until the next election, roughly, Sarah. But I'm sure that she's assured me they're going to be absolutely jam-packed. So we're very much looking forward to it. Happy to go over to my Deputy Mayor, Anthony Aiken, and fellow Ward Councillor, or Councillor Hathaway, to follow.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, it's a bit more personal for me because Sarah's actually been elected to the ward and the community that I represent in the city of Greater Geelong. And it's probably the last time that we're actually going to be able to mention former councillor Gresbeck's name as well too. And of course, Sarah is the beneficiary of the extraordinary resignation of former councillor Gresbeck in terms of the countback. So congratulations, Sarah, in that process. What is heartening for me is that Windermere actually is the largest ward in terms of physical size in the city of Greater Geelong. It's actually one of our most diverse communities as well too, in that we have coastal areas, we have rural areas and we have urban areas. We also have recognised challenges in that area as well too. We actually have Victoria's most disadvantaged community, and that's known as the Norlane community. What is encouraging is that Sarah actually has had a very active involvement in social justice and social welfare up until this point of time, and I see no reason why it won't continue as a councillor. So based on that, she certainly is representing the best ward in Geelong, and I look forward to sharing that responsibility with you. And tonight it is a formal process that we are affirming your office as a councillor. So this is the last official step to formally welcome you to the City of Greater Geelong. And Sarah, I look forward personally to working with you for the next 18 months. So thank you. Yeah.
I'll ask any other councillors if they wish to speak before I'm going to throw to Councillor Hathaway to make an official first address. Councillor Murray, then Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, congratulations to Councillor Sarah. Exciting time for you. I hope being a councillor and representing the Windermere Ward and the Greater Geelong region is everything you hope it to be. And I look forward to working with you going forward. So congratulations. And I might say, over the years we've crossed paths, and it's always been a pleasure to have a chat with you many times. So again, congratulations.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Mason.
I'd also like to formally welcome Councillor Hathaway to her role, and we probably won't disagree on some things, and we'll disagree on others. And I happen to come from the best ward myself. It's the Bellarine. But anyway, that be as it may, I'm really sure that your commitment to social equity will come to the fore. Your tertiary training in social work and all of the work that you've done will be of great benefit not only to Corio and to Norlane, but to the whole COG community. So thanks for putting your hand up, and thanks for keeping that energy there to be ready when the time became available. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Contel.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm sure that everyone would like to welcome Councillor Sarah. As the Mayor said, it is an honour and a privilege to have the opportunity to represent the community in any level, particularly at local government level. And you've been certainly active in the community for, well, from my memory, well over a decade. And we've certainly rubbed shoulders in all sorts of areas of community. I respect your passion. We haven't seen eye to eye always in the past, and I'm sure we won't here either. But it's the diversity that this place needs, and as long as it's respectful, robust debate is always welcome. So I equally look forward to working alongside you to continue to, provide support for our community at large. So well done.
Mayor, if you don't mind. Thank you. Yeah. It's like a broken record. There's a lot of love for you, Sarah, obviously in the room, in the gallery, and I do want to obviously add to the comments being made today. Great to see another progressive woman, particularly, joining council. It's fantastic, really. Sad to see that we lost Councillor Grisbeck, but fantastic to see that we've had another woman replace an outgoing woman, so I think that's fantastic. And yeah, really looking forward to working with you.
Thank you. Yep, I'll go to Councillor Maloney, then Councillor Asher.
Sweet, thanks Mayor Sullivan. Welcome Sarah. I don't have much to say apart from welcome to the jungle. Strap in, buckle up and enjoy the ride, because it sure is a ride. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Maloney. Councillor Asher.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I think everybody's already said quite a lot, but I'd very much like to warmly welcome Councillor Hathaway and congratulate you, Sarah. The countback, very exciting way to become a councillor. So well done for putting your hand up in the first place, and all the very best. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you. I'll now throw over to Councillor Hathaway to make her first official address. I'm extending time limits up to 5 minutes for this one, should she so wish. Councillor Hathaway, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. And thanks to all my fellow councillors for the welcome. I guess as my first speech to council, I would like to pay my respects to Wadawurrung people, their elders past, present and emerging. and any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people in the council chambers or viewing this evening's meeting via live stream. After running in the local council elections in Windermere Ward in 2020, the COVID year, and just missing out by coming in third, it definitely came as a great surprise to be in for the running again via VEC countback in late June, just under 4 weeks ago. And I certainly echo the comments of my fellow councillors that it is a real privilege to be in this position of representing my own community and the broader inner and rural north of this city. The City of Greater Geelong has a lot of strengths, some of which have been highlighted on the steps of Geelong City Hall this evening, that we are a city that promotes and benefits from diversity in all forms, and we welcome people of all cultures, faiths and backgrounds to be part of and contribute to our community. And I want to take this opportunity to thank and acknowledge again the work of Norlane residents who initiated the gathering tonight, highlighting the value of community initiative and organising. And I have to say I've had a real buzz for the last 2 weeks and never felt prouder to be part of the 3214 community. On Friday last week, the local government Community Satisfaction Survey results for 2023 were circulated to all councillors. 600 respondents in our local government area responded to the survey. And in particular, I want to acknowledge those areas of council who had a strong result, including arts centres, libraries, customer service, waste management and recreational facilities. As core services, it's great to see such a strong positive response from the community. Where there is room for improvement is community consultation and making community decisions. This is something that all councillors, as well as council officers, have a role in. And personally, this is something I look forward to contributing to by holding monthly ward meetings with residents in Windermere Ward and supporting residents to organise on issues that are important to them, like we saw on the steps of Geelong City Hall tonight. As councillors, we are elected by our respective communities. This is who we need to be out talking to. As a councillor group and council officers, I acknowledge that communication between ourselves is important. However, if we find ourselves spending more time talking to each other than to the communities who we claim to be representing, I think that's problematic. If we can't genuinely justify every decision we make as councillors back to the communities we claim to represent, then we need to ask why we're making those decisions. I look forward to working with residents in Windermere Ward, with Deputy Mayor Aiken, over the next 15 months, including taking direction from residents in the ward on issues they care about. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you everyone for your words, and thank you for audience for your participation and vocal approval. And thank you, Councillor Hathaway, for your words. Just in closing, I will reflect on what Councillor Contell actually said about the diversity of views in a council chamber. As a level of government that is closest to the community, diversity is at the essence of what a council is meant to be made up of. Multiple views, multiple representatives from all demographics of the community. And it's nice to see someone in their 30s in here as well. I've often said that one of the most difficult things, one of the difficult positions in life to run for council, one of the most disadvantaged positions to be in actually, it's very hard for a young mother to run for council. We try encourage everybody to be a part of this, but that's been a fact that's been backed up by Wild, and it's been backed up by other poor people in so many different categories. To have somebody in your position who's really put the hand up and put the hours in is fantastic, and we need more people who feel empowered to do so as well. So thank you for your work going ahead, and thank you for your passion so far. With that, I'm happy to put this to the vote that Council note the affirmation of Councillor Sarah Hathaway as per attachment 1. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. There we go, round of applause again. All right. Item 2 of the agenda is North Bellarine Aquatic Centre, Stage 2. As local board councillor, I will move this, seconded by Councillor Mason. Thank you. What we have before us here for the North Bellarine Aquatic Centre, Stage 2, is quite a landmark report. This has been something that's been a long dream for many, many decades on the Bellarine, to have a full aquatic centre in the location, that people don't have to go all the way into Geelong to receive full access to aquatic services. We saw stage 1, which is almost ready for opening, nearly as we see now, and to have that follow through with funding from the state and federal governments for stage 2 is incredible. The last thing we wanted to do was to have to wait 10 years before we add on the stage 2 and see backing by the local MPs Alison Marchant and Libby Coker of $20 million apiece. We're incredibly, incredibly grateful for. I would like to thank all the good work in the community by councillors, by council officers, and especially as well by the community advisory panel, which was forged by or made up of members from the community who had a passion for aquatic facilities and equal access for equity in how they were distributed around the Bellarine and, of course, then wider Geelong. We have a fantastic concept which was unanimously endorsed by all members of the advisory panel on the meeting of the 5th of July. And with so much going into this, equal access to aquatic services is so important for all members of our communities, regardless of your abilities or social status or socioeconomic ability. So that's why at Seagrave Geelong we have uniform funding across all of our areas, so that people don't have to pay more to get into newer facilities and less to get into older facilities. Everybody has a medium rate, and we have many, many concessions as well. But that's beside the point. What we're going about here is this fantastic facility that will service so many older participants, so many young families in all the schools that are located close by. This is an amazing step forwards and an amazing addition to our region and the jewel that is the Greater Geelong municipality. I'm happy to pass over to Councillor Mason to second.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. I only can reiterate the words that you've stated, and I'm so pleased to be supporting and seconding this motion. And has already been said, we've been waiting so long to reach this point, and it has been hard work. But I'd really like to commend COG officers, most recently led by Robin Stevens, for their really good work, and the 12 Community Advisory Panel and extended members of the community through time, but especially the most recent Community Advisory Panel, for all the contribution, expertise and direct experience, dedication in getting this result, this quick result in the end. Of course, all needs couldn't be met within the required budget, and ongoing operational costs and so on. The committee went through an analysis process very rigorously and carefully to reach a consensus on this model. And it didn't look as if we'd reach a consensus at the beginning, but there was such careful thought put into it and careful discussion that we came round to a consensus only very recently. And I witnessed this good work at a number of meetings where I have to add the Bellarine MP Alison Marchant and Corangamite MP Libby Coker, both regularly attended and observed and participated in those outcomes. So the scenario that we've ended up with is an indoor 8-lane, 25-metre pool, a warm water pool with health and wellness and associated facilities. And I must say also, all were very conscious of the operational costs and methods of mitigating these through commercial components and other costs. So I commend the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Thank you, Councillor Mason. Any other councillors wish to comment? Councillor Asher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think both of you have already said pretty much what there is to say. Congratulations to everybody involved. It's been a very long time coming, and I absolutely echo your sentiments that it's so good. It's got essential facilities that the Bellarines wanted and deserve, with both the outdoor 50-metre pool and stage with the indoor pools and gym and all that sort of stuff as well. Thank you to the panel. I think it was really important to have everybody's contribution and also come up with a facility that really does try and meet the needs of everybody in the community. So well done to everybody concerned. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to comment? Councillor Murray.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, this is a fantastic result, this. And I really want to acknowledge all the work done by the officers, and I particularly want to highlight one former officer of the city, Ian Hicks, for his work on this project. It certainly reached a speed hump at a stage not too long ago, and it was Ian's work that brought the advisory group together. There was certainly pressure from the local members, local residents, and the advisory committee was formed, and we're able to see what we have now as a large result of what I believe Ian Hicks was able to achieve with that group. So it is just a fabulous result, and I thank everyone that's been involved in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Contell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I'm supportive of this, but more so from an active spaces, I guess, perspective, given I'm the chair of the portfolio. But I've grown up, like many have, involved in sport and activity, through my youth and then into my adulthood. And investments such as this are an amazing investment into the future of our community and our region. And I know you can always look at, well, why are we putting money to this club, or why are we putting money into this facility, and why aren't we putting money elsewhere? You just can't look at it that way, because everything's important, and for one reason or another at different times of council's term, we'll invest in different areas of the community. One thing that can be said about sport and activity, it does so much more than just provide facilities for the elite. It builds camaraderie amongst people. It provides discipline and guidance for our youth. Of course, it helps with physical health and fitness, but also helps with mental health and healthy minds. And so whenever we're investing into active spaces and sporting facilities, I'm always going to be a huge supporter of that. And the fact that this will then give that community down there, but also visitors and Geelong people that frequent the area, a facility now for the future existence of that facility, which will be decades to come, I think is a tremendous investment.
Thank you, Councillor Contell. All right, if nothing else to be said on this one, I'll just close as well and just reiterate my thank for the funding, for local MPs, all the countless hours of officer work that went into this one. It was fantastic. I would actually like to acknowledge Councillor Asher for kicking off the whole aquatic centre many years ago and being an advocate for nigh on a decade, I imagine so, to get this whole process rolling, definitely as Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Murray as well, who as Mayor did work with the group as well to push this forward. A lot of great work's happened over a long time to get to where we are now, and it's been a tremendous job and a tremendous amount of goodwill, and I just can't wait to see this ball rolling, and the community can't wait to see this final outcome as well. So with that, I put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? That is carried. All right, item number 3 on the agenda. G21 and Football Victoria, Regional Football, in brackets soccer, strategy for 2023-2033. I do apologise for all football enthusiasts, I had to put that in there. All right, I'd like to ask for a mover in Councillor Contell and a seconder in Deputy Mayor Aiken. Councillor Contell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. So tonight, this report here, the G21 draft football, or as you say, Mr Mayor, soccer, regional football facility, strategy which is drafted to serve us from 2023 to 2033, is being asked to be put forward to exhibit for public consultation. The report will be out for that period of consultation for some 6 weeks. And so tonight's probably one of the nights where I wish we had a 12th councillor, and that Councillor Kylie Grisbeck was still with us, because we all know that Councillor Grisbeck was and is a passionate soccer football person, and she's played part in developing this report as well. And I'm sure that she would have and will have strong opinions and feedback for us on this topic, and I'm really hoping that she'll share those with us, which I'm sure she will. This strategy is extremely important for the future of soccer in our region, and I will continue to refer to it as soccer just so that we stay consistent. However, what's more important is that we have the appropriate stakeholders, particularly local soccer clubs, organisations, players and passionate soccer enthusiasts to brief themselves on the contents of this document, because there is quite a significant amount of information, and then for them to get active and provide open and honest feedback. Because, in fact, it's really worth advising that when the initial soccer strategy was presented to us in 2012, the City of Greater Geelong actually never adopted that soccer strategy. We only ever noted it. And the reason for that was that there was so much dissatisfaction associated with the initiatives and the report itself from a lot of local Geelong soccer clubs at the time, that it was such that it was unacceptable to the councillors, including myself, at that period of time. It's not to say that the whole document was wrong, but it just wasn't accepted broadly by the community. And Councillor Sarah said before, if we're not making decisions that are backed by the community, then why are we making them? And that was one of those occasions. Having said that, we've used it as a guide, but it wasn't accepted totally by the community. So there's no doubt that in the past 14 odd years, there's been a significant amount of investment and development in infrastructure and support for soccer in our region. And City of Greater Geelong have certainly played a very significant part in that, including, investing in many of the infrastructure upgrades over the last decade or so with the clubs, whether it be pitch lighting, whether it be club rooms, female-friendly facilities, or, supporting events and tournaments in the region, even engaging with Western United in those A-League games. However, there's certainly still a lot more that needs to be done, and there's a lot more that needs to be considered, including the consideration of clubs that are based or located on private land, the North Geelong Warriors Soccer Club being one of them. So, City of Greater Geelong being the size that it is, there is no doubt that soccer will continue to grow, and the growth in this region alone has been tremendous over the last 10 years. And as such, we should not only want, but we should demand and expect that the Geelong community receives a regional and sub-regional soccer facility in this area of Geelong. To be the second largest city in Victoria, we need to be continuing to fight to make sure that we do actually obtain a facility like that in the future. And there is no doubt that the growth will continue, one, because of the growth that's occurring in population in Geelong, with us being, on any given day, the fastest growing city in Australia, and on the back of female participation, and also on the success and the back of Australians representing us on the world stage playing the World Games, such as we're seeing currently with the Matildas. So, just a couple of quick stats. The football in the G21 region has some 5,600 participants, and this is up 2,300 participants since 2015. There's also been approximately a 114% increase in female participation since 2015, and 25% of all those participants are female. So certainly encourage everyone to provide their feedback and input. The Mayor is winding me up, and rightly so, and I'll hand over to my fellow councillors to speak further.
Thank you, Councillor Contell. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Contell, for your love and commitment towards the World Game. Look, this strategy actually builds on a very strong history that exists in Geelong about our support and our love for soccer. In the northern suburbs of Geelong, we actually have the heart of soccer in our regional community. We have Bell Park Sports Club, we have Geelong Soccer Club, we have the Corio Soccer Club, and we also have the North Geelong Warriors. And what this report does is it solidifies the council's commitments towards soccer, not just ours, but other local government authorities throughout the G21 region. What it does tell us is that a major growth opportunity exists in Armstrong Creek for soccer. It also tells us that there are significant facility upgrades that are required as well too. And it is probably, I don't know if the officers were showing their strategic intelligence tonight, but it is fantastic that this report's actually being presented while the World Cup is actually being played in Australia and New Zealand. And in fact, when we say the World Cup, we say the Women's World Cup, which happens to be the most successful and accessible sport for women in the world. And we're experiencing that now in Australia and New Zealand, seeing the number of countries that are actually represented in the World Cup. And in fact, some of the stats from that are now coming out were that 183 different countries have actually come to Australia to actually witness the World Cup. But there's also some stats that have come out as well too. And just this week, as we're celebrating women's sport at the highest level, and we'll do so for the next 3 weeks in Australia and New Zealand, the CEO of Football Australia came out and actually said that of all where Australians women play soccer in Australia, only 41% of the venues have female toilets and female change room facilities. And that is an indictment on us as a community, that 60% of the venues at which women are playing soccer don't even have appropriate female toilets and change rooms. Now, this report that's before us tonight is in draft form. It'll go out for 6 weeks worth of consultation, but it talks about the level of facilities, the growth in female participation in soccer, and it does challenge local governments in the G21 region to actually develop the facilities that are needed. This council, as Councillor Contal has mentioned, has had a very strong commitment over the last 4 years in terms of facility upgrades, and it has very much been driven by the state government's female-friendly change room and World Game grant program, which was focused on trying to address that very sad statistic that I just mentioned before. So I endorse the draft report. I encourage people to make comment on it, and go Matildas.
Yeah, well said, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Open up for comment. Councillor Murray.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I want to endorse the words spoken by Councillor Contal and Councillor Aiken. This is certainly a great document, and I thank G21 for their work in producing this. It is in draft form and of course goes out for consultation. So I really encourage those who have thoughts and opinions about the world game in this region to have a look at this document and contribute to it. The draft provides clubs, associations, local government authorities and other stakeholders in the G21 region the opportunity to align. And I think that's an important word there, align, because Geelong can't do it alone. There are other, obviously, local LGAs that form part of the G21 at the moment, and it's important that it's one voice across the region for the next 10 years. And I know Councillor Contal had some stats. I'm not sure if you said this one, but 67% over 10 years, the increase in the numbers, the staggering. And 48% of those are juniors, and 114% of those are female participation. So it's certainly a sport that is going in the right places, but of course it needs help from from all levels of government. There has been $54 million spent in the G21 region on infrastructure since 2012, but is certainly highlighted in the sub-regional football facility that needs to be built certainly in the near future. So I encourage those who have some stakeholder in the game to take hold of the strategy. Again, I thank G21 for it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. There's no further comments. I'll throw back to Councillor Contell to close.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I won't rab it on for too long. Just quickly encouraging all councillors, I guess, also to promote this strategy that's out for 6 weeks. Make sure that your communities are aware of it, so that we can get good input, because that's what we're looking for. It's I suppose an opportunity also just to sort of thank the forefathers that brought the sport over to Australia, all those many decades ago, which was really that migrant movement, the 40s and the 50s. And that's why, as Councillor Aitken indicated, that soccer has been so strong in the north, with most of the migrants moving into that North Geelong area, working in Ford and Pilkingtons and all those factories at the time. And it was a period of time in Australia's history which we didn't really know much about soccer. But it's grown significantly since then, and it's now embraced by the entire community. One thing that I find really interesting that Councillor Aitken and I laugh about often is that you've got Bell Park Soccer Club, which is in Batesford, you've got North Geelong Soccer Club, which is in Lara, and you've got Geelong Soccer Club, which is in Corio. So it's quite an interesting little arrangement we've got here in Geelong.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Councillor Contell. With that, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. All right, item number 4 on the agenda. I believe you have a conflict, Councillor Contell? Councillor Contell is leaving the chamber at 7:42 p.m. All right, item number 4 is Northern and Western Geelong Growth Areas Strategic Assessment. Looking for a mover in Councillor Mason as Chair of Planning. Thank you, Councillor Mason. And seconded by Councillor Hathaway, a nice, cruisy 900-page document to move on your first council meeting. Excellent. Councillor Mason, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is going out for an 8-week consultation. And the concept of this very important Northern and Western Geelong growth area has long been endorsed by Council and will provide for Geelong's future housing needs and be home for over 110,000 people. Planning to develop these growth areas has many phases, is ongoing, though there have been some unavoidable delays. So we're at the stage now where we must satisfy all requirements under the Part 10 of the EBC correction, the Environmental Protection Biodiversity Conservation Act, and to comply with an agreement with the Commonwealth Department of Climate Change and Energy, Environment and Water. So this requires us, as lead in the strategic assessment, to ensure that there is a planned approach to the protection of biodiversity values in the growth area. It's a very important phase which must be satisfactorily implemented before we can proceed to the release of structure plans for one of the growth precincts in 2024. So the essence of this is that Council is asked to release the draft Environmental Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Plan and Strategic Assessment Report for the Northern and Western Geelong growth areas for 8 weeks of community consultation. Now, this isn't the first bit of consultation. The plan has already been developed in consultation with the major state and federal stakeholders, Wadawurrung traditional owners, environment groups, landowners and developers on conservation reserves and options for delivering offsets and funding. careful consideration has been given to opportunities for biodiversity linkages and to incentivise conservation on private land and management of the Moorabool River. So, Mr Mayor, a key element of this conservation plan is to provide internal and external offsets to lost biodiversity so as to protect and conserve biodiversity in key areas. It's best we identify especially the external offsets as soon as possible so that they may be secured in the near term at lesser cost and without the constraint of stalling future development until these offsets are secured. So landowners and the city already share the cost of preparing the strategic assessment, and full cost will be recovered from the developers by the preparation of an infrastructure levy. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Hathaway.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, in terms of the finer details, I think Councillor Mason's covered it. But in terms of the consultation period, 8 weeks may seem like a long time, but as the Mayor indicated, there is a lot of pages to read. So I'd be encouraging the community to get onto that and all the stakeholders as already outlined. And as a representative for the area, I'm sure myself and Councillor Aiken would welcome any comments or feedback as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. The other councillors wish to speak? Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, it actually can't be underestimated how significant this decision is we're making tonight in terms of putting out for public consultation this report. The report's actually over 900 pages in length, and that actually shows the magnitude of what we're actually considering, and it is the Environmental Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Plan, and is the Strategic Assessment Report for the Northern and Western Growth Zones. So when it comes back to us, it'll be a significant decision that Council will make. It will have multi-million-dollar implications for the Council, and in terms of our cash flow and in terms of how we manage our responsibilities for this future growth area. We should acknowledge the council officers. They have been working on this for a very, very long time, and to actually see it get to this point must be such joy for them to actually experience that it's finally nearly there. Yes, we've now got another 8 weeks of consultation. We will actually receive submissions from the stakeholders associated with it. They have been waiting patiently for the release of this particular document and positioning paper from council. And also note as well too that this week there is going to be a major report tabled in Parliament about the planning and corruption that has actually occurred in local government, in particular in the city of Casey. And from all reports, that recommendations that the Parliament's going to consider actually is going to take away a number of the strategic responsibilities that councils have in local government. What I wish to preempt before that report is tabled in Parliament is that certainly there has been no corruption in Geelong associated with our responsibilities in terms of growth zones in Geelong, and in fact we have been extremely transparent in the manner in which we make our decisions in Geelong, and this report is an example of the transparency. We will now ask for the stakeholders to actually come back to us before we make a final decision as a council group, and we will make the best decision that we can for our community and also for the future community that will actually come with this new zoning. 110,000 population is a significant growth increase for Geelong, and we should be doing it in the most sustainable and accessible way as well too. And importantly, I'll also say this report talks about levies and other financial impacts on the development community. One of the strategic aims that this council has is we do want affordable opportunities in our economic growth. We do not just want to actually be able to create enclaves that restrict everybody that wishes to participate in living in that area. If financial costs actually restrict you, we've failed in our responsibilities.
Deputy Mayor Aiken. Any further comments from the council group? Councillor Maloney.
Thanks, Mayor Sullivan. I think that this is going to be one of the big key things that all of us councillors do in our time. That we've seen this along the way, and Sarah, you will too in your next 18 months and hopefully beyond. One strategic meeting that we had a long time ago, I asked the question, who are we to substitute our needs over the stripy legless lizard and the golden sun moth. And I think that this piece needs to really be careful in essentially gathering together all of our resources and all of our knowledge of what we've done in the past and what we've done wrong in our previous developments. Game of Thrones street naming probably is debatable either way, but I mean with respect to the attraction, that the wonderful natural environment that our lovely city of Greater Geelong has, not only Serendip Sanctuary but this grassland. So we have the opportunity right here to make adjustments, and in this consultation I highly implore everyone to get on their democratic high horse and jump on to this draft consultation, because we really need to hear from you in order to reverberate what we all want. I don't believe that offsets go far enough in protecting our species that are endangered, and these three that are listed on this item here are very crucial. You might not think much of a moth, you might want to swat them away when you're driving around or if one hits you in the face. But it is imperative that we manage our biodiversity, and that's why I'm really looking forward to our biodiversity updates on our nature strip planting, and hopefully we'll be able to see that coming up in our northern western growth zones. I really want to commend the individuals that brought this to us with a careful consideration and came back after question after question. It's been a long time, and I really implore folks to come and have a look at it and see what is really under that enormous document. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. With that, I'll just add that this is an incredibly important document. Housing stress is a major issue right now, not only across the nation, but across the world. How we go about it going forwards is incredibly crucial to our way of life, the built form. A lot of time from the council group has gone into this. A lot more time from officers have gone into this as well. And as Councillor Maloney has said, it's quite right. There's been many, many questions asked and a lot of information gathered and delivered back. Community consultation is vital in every aspect of everything that we do here. As I've said earlier this evening, we're the level of government that is closest to the community, and that forms a vital part of what we do. So with that, I'm happy to throw back to Councillor Mason to close.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I thank all councillors for their input, their thoughtful inputs, and also want to emphasise and commend the work done by our officers in this very large task, part of which has been to focus on the protection of our biodiversity, which has been and is threatened. And amazingly enough, even in this particular area, which is formally recorded as highly degraded in many areas due to agriculture, etc., there do remain the vestiges of wonderful biodiversity to be protected. And so this responsibility is a heavy responsibility, as Councillor Aitken mentioned, and it carries over 30 years. And this biodiversity conservation strategy supports the strategic assessment, and it does have many checks and balances, some of which require 5-yearly reporting to state and federal authorities. And it actually does cover the whole growth area in a coordinated and equitable manner. So I thank everyone for their inputs and commend the motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mason. With that, I'll put to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? The item is carried. All right, item number 5 on the agenda. Upcoming international delegate opportunities. Moved by Deputy Mayor Aiken, seconded by Councillor Mason. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Look, I must admit, when I came into council, if this report came to me in 2017 when I first became a councillor, I actually would have voted against it. And why? Well, why have I now changed my position that I'm supporting and actually a strong supporter of this recommendation? Well, since 2017, I think I've matured as a person, and I actually understand that we're actually part of a global community. We're actually not just Geelong in isolation. And certainly I continue to get educated about the importance of our relationships, and this is a perfect example of that. And I do think it is maturity, why I now am a strong supporter of our international relationships. We in Geelong have actually signed up to 2 significant things. One was the UNESCO Creative Cities Network, and we did that in 2017. And we signed up to it because we actually said we want to be creative, we want to be clever, and we actually want to recognise that we're part of a global community. And with that responsibility, there are only 43 cities of design in the whole world, and we're one of them in Geelong, and I'm really proud of that. I'm extremely proud of that. But you can't just be proud, you actually have responsibilities. And one of the obligations from being part of the UNESCO Cities Network is that we have to attend the AGM. And we've done that twice already. In 2018, our Mayor of the Day actually went to Poland, which was the annual general meeting for UNESCO. In 2019, our Mayor of the Day actually went to Italy, which was the annual general meeting as well too. Now, the past few years, because of COVID, we haven't been able to go. However, we have been asked again to fulfil our responsibilities under our obligations that we have signed with UNESCO City of Design. And those obligations have actually asked us that the AGM will be held in Istanbul, and we do want the Mayor of the City of Greater Geelong to fulfil our obligations from signing that agreement. Now, the second part of this request is actually a really fascinating one, which is to go to South Korea. And as I said, my education has actually even improved since November, since I was the Deputy Mayor appointed by this council group. Hanwha, I'll just read who Hanwha is. Hanwha Defence Australia has been selected as the sole source for Land 816, a $1 billion project which will seek the Commonwealth acquire self-propelled artilleries to be manufactured in Greater Geelong area. And guess where they're being manufactured? They're being manufactured in my area, out at Avalon. And they're building that facility now. And they're creating jobs for my community out there. And they are also bidding for an additional $3 billion project from the federal government. Now, what I've been educated with since November of this year, becoming Deputy Mayor, is that our Mayor's been under pressure to actually fulfil the cultural obligations that the South Koreans actually believe that this is how you do business and this is how you actually conduct yourself as a community. We've spoken with the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade to actually ask them to give us advice about how do we respond in a diplomatic and professional way to what is being asked from the Mayor of Geelong. Now, you know what the Mayor of Geelong's been asked to do? The Mayor of Geelong's been asked by the Ambassador of South Korea, the Mayor of Changwon, the Consul General of South Korea, all of them have written within the last 8 months to actually say, when are you coming over to South Korea to cement the Memorandum of Understanding that you signed in March 2022? And the Mayor has politely said, I cannot accept at this point of time, but at some time it will be the right time to actually accept and fulfil our responsibilities. I believe all of us should not be making a decision about a mayor. We should be making a decision about our global obligations and responsibilities that we have signed up for in Geelong. You cannot actually say that voting no for this will not impact on our reputation internationally. It will. Just 2 weeks ago, I actually attended a breakfast with the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia and the local member for Lara, where the Hanwhan facility is actually being built. And at that breakfast, the Hanwhan representative actually introduced themselves, and they actually said, we are attending this breakfast to start building our relationships in the local community. They actually said, we want to sponsor local community clubs, we want to sponsor local art clubs, and they actually said that we want to be part of the community. And as a consequence, we have to do our obligations. I want to create jobs in my community out in the northern suburbs, and I want those jobs out at Avalon. I want to fulfil our responsibilities as a member of UNESCO and actually ensure we don't lose our membership by not attending the annual general meeting. I want to actually recognise that I have matured as a councillor and that I have educated myself that we do have these obligations, and it is an investment that we are making, and a very small investment, by supporting this decision tonight to actually support our obligations and allow the Mayor to attend. Thank you very much, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. And I'm seconding this motion in order to allow debate. I've had a history of fully supporting the city's collaboration with UNESCO Creative Cities Network. I find it stimulating, and the work that we've done in our city, many of our documents and so on have embedded within them UNESCO City of Design, and so there's so very many things that are positive about this. I also think it's a great opportunity, or it would have been a great opportunity, to pay our respects to Korea at the same time. So I am very disappointed that we're in a situation where we have severe budget constraints and that we have other critical social issues such as food insecurity and homelessness to contend with. I'm further disappointed that this travel is much more expensive and costly than we first thought. I have really given this issue deep thought in recent times, and during the evolution of my character, I've also grown to understand the need for deep relationships, both locally and internationally. And I think all is not lost if we don't go. I think we should prevail. We should extend our hands, reach out to try and improve and maintain relationships. And I'm sure our relationship with UNESCO won't be destroyed by non-attendance on one occasion. In fact, I would like to advocate a clever and creative city of design might be able to attend virtually, or attend in other ways, or participate in other ways. It's not impossible to participate if you're just not there on site. So I really, in the ideal circumstances, face-to-face is always better, but I think we need to make advances and apologies that we just can't manage at this time. And prepare other ways of communicating on this occasion. Similarly, I believe with our relationship with Korea, there is an embassy in Melbourne. We can extend our apologies personally there as well. It's just that we are not in a situation at this point in time to be involved in international travel. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Open the floor for other comments, other councillors to comment.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to comment.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell.
As recently noted in the Geelong Advertiser, this trip doesn't pass the pub test. I've in fact just checked the online comments, and there were 71 comments on the Addy article and 543 votes on an online poll, 84% in fact stating that COG should not spend the money on this trip. And despite the passion commented on particularly by Councillor Aitken and his personal support for this overseas trip, I don't believe this trip has any tangible benefits for the city or its residents. And furthermore, at a time when we've ripped the guts out of funding many programs that residents hold dear, it's an insult to those same residents. Only the day before the Geelong Addy featured a story about job losses at the Give Where You Live Foundation, which lost $20,000 of council funding in the 23-24 budget. And this $25,000 could be far more usefully spent on public infrastructure projects that improve the lives of our residents. For example, $25,000 would pay for solar lighting in the walkway between Mervyn Court and the Aldershot Reserve, a much needed project in my area that appears to have had zero traction with this council. $25,000 would pay for 2 bus shelters so that local residents didn't have to wait in the rain to catch a bus. And what's more, if we designed them well, maybe those bus shelters could win us a UNESCO City of Design Award. Mr Mayor, I wish to flag that if this motion is defeated, I will be moving an alternative motion in regard to the reallocation of the $25,000 funding to a suitable community infrastructure project that missed out in this year's budget.
Councillor Cadwell, I'll just have to interject there. We don't have authority to reallocate funds from the budgetary process during council motions. We can have it continue, but we can't actually do that.
And finally, let me just say that by bringing this to the chamber for debate, it shows how out of touch some councillors are with the needs and interests of local Geelong residents. Thank you.
I'll also interject there that this is a report put forth by city officers, not council laws. So if you're referring to city officers being out of touch, I would ask you to withdraw that comment.
Statement.
Did you just refer to city officers as being out of touch?
I'm talking about this proposition. The proposal is out of touch.
Which is a report. So you're referring to council officers bringing forth a report that they've put on the policy based on City of Design and UNESCO.
I'm not going to be bullied in this chamber, Mr Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor Cadwell, I'm asking for clarification on that, and you've just referred to a report put forth by officers as being out of touch. So I'm going to ask you now as a direction from the chair to withdraw those comments. And when given direction from the chair to withdraw comments, they actually must be done without question or without remark. I can enforce, we're bringing it up right here. Governance rules 3.534. Councillor who is required to withdraw a remark must do so immediately without qualification or explanation. Are you following the direction of the chair?
I actually can't even understand what you were asking me.
Asking you to withdraw your comment, seeing as you just called a report by officers as out of touch.
I'm talking about the funding.
And that is for, I've given you explicit direction. Are you going to follow the explicit direction?
I don't exactly know what you were trying to do here, but I don't appreciate being
Cadwell,
bullied
I've been very clear here, and actually remind you that under 3.542, or 1, a chairperson is an authorised city officer may have any person removed from the meeting room for reasons of disorderly conduct or failing to act in accordance with the direction from the chairperson. You've just insulted city officers by
Point of order.
Out of touch by bringing forth this.
I don't actually believe that that's what I've done, and what I believe is happening right now is that I am being bullied and intimidated in this chamber, and that is not acceptable.
Point of order, Mayor Sullivan, you're speaking very fast. Well, I can't understand what you're saying.
All right, I'll slow down. I'll slow down. But a point of as I've just said, Councillor Cadwell, you've called a report by officers as out of touch that the organisation has brought to the chamber. I'm asking you to withdraw that comment.
You are telling me that you are giving me a directive as the chair of this meeting that I must comply with, then I will comply with it.
You withdraw the comment. Please continue.
That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. Any other councillors wish to comment? Councillor Hathaway.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in relation to the motion as it's currently presented, I'm unable to support it as it currently stands. Not because I don't understand the merits of international travel or that I believe there's nothing for us overseas. I consider myself an internationalist. I've benefited from international travel and I understand a lot of the points, Councillor Aiken, that you've made. In terms of the Korea trip, I am in a position where I feel I need to oppose this on the basis of the heavy emphasis on relations with Hanwha Defence. In the current economic, social and environmental context, I find it quite obscene that our federal government is driving militarism and spending $368 billion on AUKUS and a drive to war. This is when we have a cost of living crisis, a housing stress crisis and a climate crisis. At a local level, just last month, this council passed a budget with significant cuts to community services, with a message to community that we had to make sacrifices and tighten the belt. Wearing my other hat as a social worker in mental health services in the north, I see most days the hard choices people are making, actual hard choices. Do they pay for medication that will prevent mental health deterioration and hospital admission, or do they pay for rent? In that context, Mr. Mayor, I can't support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think when Council we're excited by the fact that we became a UNESCO Creative City Network back in 2017, and we celebrated that fact. And I think part of that was the acceptance that the Mayor's presence at future UNESCO AGMs is required. And I support that, and I would support that tonight if that was just the motion before us, but it's not. And it's disappointing that it's been drawn in with other visits. Look, my views on this is that with the environment this council has been operating under in the past few months, obviously referring to budget cuts, which we were told were essential, the timing of this is all wrong. I would support the Istanbul, but not the other travel to Hanwha, South Korea, although I acknowledge the importance of that relationship. So, yeah, I've got nothing further to say on that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Any further comments on the council group? Something special, Deputy Mayor Aiken?
Yeah, I'm happy to close debate if you wish.
No, I'll just have to say now. International travel is always a contentious issue. When I first came onto council, I myself was very much conflicted on the items. Until I saw the information put before us and that there is tangible benefits by forging these international relations and having economic development and investment into our region. Geelong has grown to a size now that we've always been a player or on the world stage, but now we're truly involved. And part of our duties is not only to operate how we locally, but to attract and market ourselves internationally with other like cities and like-minded communities. And before us here, we have 3 things in total: Korea, UNESCO AGM, then the creative cities for Belgium to Scotland. Korea has shown incredible interest and faith in Geelong. Hanwha has invested heavily in the north, not only with the contracts and building of their facilities, but also their reach into the community to educate, to create tradespeople, men and women out there who will work in these facilities. They've already forged connections with local education institutions for kids who will be educated and then come out of schools to work in these facilities. In that post, we've got UNESCO, an AGM. We're very proud when we became a city of design. And we gain a lot from this network and the information. And they've invested a lot into us. And the one thing that they ask is that each year we go there and we present on what we are doing, our findings. So no city around the world has to waste time reinventing the wheel when they can already see the good work that's been done elsewhere. And forging those connections is the hardest part. We haven't been since 2019 because of the pandemic. It's been a long time. UNESCO has not seen us return our contributions. The City of Design trip, which is with the more secular who we are as an actual city, our sister cities in that network, apart from the UNESCO AGM. We recently had delegates, 27 delegates, from other creative cities of design here in Geelong to learn what we're doing. We had a sub-network meeting, incredibly vital. It's similar to how we invest in local recycling races, that eventually we see the announcement of a UCI, an international UCI Grand Fondo on our doorstep. You need to build, forge relationships and attract that investment. That's what happened with that sub-network meeting. We built, we attracted it. On that platform we can build more and we can attract more. But when we attract those meetings and we bring delegates from all around the world to our doorstep and then we're not willing to do the same, that sends a message. It sends a message that we're willing to take this information, but we're not willing to give back. In areas such as the world where relationships dictate how you do business, the Office of the Mayor, every time from when I've been Deputy Mayor to Mayor here, received a series of invitations from higher level international delegations. And I didn't know how to properly respond because we had to have a policy, we had to have substance to what we're doing. So we went back to officers, we forced the position. And a trip like this is how we can actually extend that, enact parts of our MOU. But delegations from Geelong to Korea are nothing new. Just 2 months ago, DFAT authorised delegation of Geelong bodies, which I was supposed to be a part of, but had pressing issues to handle back here. Education institutions, committees for Geelong, Deakin, Gordon, Manufacturing Council, and much, much more. This was authorised by the federal government and subsidised by it as well. They gave it the blessing. I gave videotaped a message from the play from me at each meeting. But they came back to me and said the one question they were asked most was, where is the mayor? If the city does not believe in this, in the delegation, what's happening? Why isn't he here? Especially I believe, since we have actually anything before us right now, voting on a trip to reciprocate to the Chang Wan, who's been here twice with full official parties. It's not, sorry, we can't make it. It's an outright rejection. Especially the last week we've had, where international lights have been on us and what we're doing here. Not fulfilling the MOU, not fulfilling our duties to UNESCO, not fulfilling the duties to creative cities which we put our hand off, and instead voting against it to not fulfil our obligations. Well, then we can't criticise anyone above us for doing the same. If there's no further councillors to comment, I'll put back to Deputy Mayor Aitken.
Mr Mayor, look, I foreshadow an alternative if it is lost. I just say that. A no vote actually is putting the office of the mayor in a difficult position. And I say the office of the mayor because it's actually, mayors come and go, personalities come and go, but in fact it's the privilege of the office of the mayor that these invites are actually being received from. And it does put the office of the mayor in a very difficult position if it is a no vote, because essentially we won't be honouring our commitment to UNESCO if we vote no. We're actually saying we're happy to be part of the city design, but we're not going to honour our commitment to actually attend the AGM. And I'm actually more worried about the second one than the first one, and that is that we won't honour our MOU with Changhua, And the implications for that are severe for my community, because my community is desperate for employment opportunities. They're desperate for new investment, and they're desperate for having hope. And if we choose a no vote tonight, we're actually walking away from my community out in the northern suburbs, because the investment that Hanwha is committing to is significant. It's not $50 million down the road. It potentially is a $4 billion project. The Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, who represents that community, has said that I cannot participate in the process, but I strongly support what the Mayor of Geelong wishes to undertake. The Deputy Prime Minister has said that this is one of the best opportunities that will occur in the northern suburbs for a lifetime. This is like saying to Fords in 1925, we're not interested in you, we're going to say no.
Mr Mayor, point of order. I think we've heard enough.
Point of order.
Could we please I ask the motion be put.
That's not actually part of a point of order.
It is a procedural motion, and it overrides any other motion and any other debate. So I move that the motion be put.
Procedural motion, it's a motion that's been moved. Procedural motions are different. By Councillor Quintel,
Asking that this motion be put. Now.
I'm throwing back to him to close. Thank you.
So look, I have nothing further to add, but the implications of a no vote, please consider it. It is significant. Our honour is actually at risk by not actually supporting, and councillors do need to consider the reputational risk that will occur to Geelong. Yeah.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. With that, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is lost. Deputy Mayor, you had an
call for a division, please, Mr Mayor. Point of order.
That's not a point of order. That's just calling for division, Deputy Cadwell. Division, please. All those in favour? Deputy Mayor Aiken, Councillor Asher, Mayor Sullivan. All those against? Councillor Hathaway, Councillor Cadwell, Councillor Marahi, Councillor Mason, Councillor Maloney. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, you had a
Mr Mayor,
motion?
a point of order. I had actually flagged that if this motion was declined and went down, that I would put an alternative motion. So I'd like to put that now.
Councillor Cadwell, I did tell you that we cannot actually interfere with budgetary allocations with motions put to the floor. Therefore, we will not be putting that to the floor.
Can I please read my motion?
No, you cannot. We cannot put forth motions. You've indicated what it is, and I've said that we cannot actually do that.
So you're actually ruling that I can't even put a motion. You're denying me that opportunity right now.
You've spoken to your motion, the fact that you're trying to allocate budgetary funds during an out-of-budget process. We actually cannot legally hear that motion.
I hear the word illegal again. How is it illegal?
Indeed, because it's entirely unenforceable. It goes against our local laws.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Look, I foreshadowed if the motion is lost to put up an alternative. And my alternative is that Council, in accordance with Council's expense policies, authorise the Mayor, Councillor Trent Sullivan, to attend the annual UNESCO Creative Cities Network in Istanbul and Changhua opportunity in September as per attachment 1. So in other words, what is dropped is the Belgium, Scotland and components of the trip, Mr Mayor. Yeah.
Okay.
Still including Changhua. You're still including Changhua.
Changhua, yeah. So in other words, it's just Changhua and UNESCO that the Mayor's going to then, yeah.
On the way over. We need a seconder for that. Who wishes to second that motion? Councillor Asher. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, you may speak to the motion.
Yeah, look, I think I've articulated as best I can why it's important for us to at least salvage these components of the trip. That is that the UNESCO Creative, it's not going to the whole Creative Cities Network, it's to go to the Istanbul, which is the annual general meeting. And importantly, as I've said, which I think is actually the more important component of the trip, is to actually go to Changhua and actually say yes to the invitations that have been received and the advice that we've actually received from the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade about the cultural understanding of how South Korea does business and how they actually do wish to see face-to-face, and that the Mayor's office actually respond in an appropriate manner to the invitations that have been extended by the Ambassador of South Korea, the Consul General of South Korea, and Hanwha Defence Industries Australia themselves.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Asher.
Look, I'll keep it fairly brief. I do believe, obviously, context is very important in all decisions, and I think Deputy Mayor Aitkins explained very well the context of the relationships, and I think on an international relations perspective, it's really important. I understand also that the timing isn't particularly great, following straight from the budget, so I do understand that context is playing into this, but from a very objective perspective, I think it's something that we should be supporting as a city to further our relationships. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Asher. Any other councillors wish to comment?
I do, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Cadwell.
Councillor Aitken, could you, or officers, please clarify how much money this will actually save? Could you clarify this amendment, how much money this will actually save from the overall 25,000?
I believe my latest update is it'll save $5,000 off that. My best knowledge.
So essentially, it's still a $20,000 trip.
My best knowledge. Other councillors wish to comment? Councillor Mason.
As I previously stated, Mr Mayor, in principle I very much support both relationships. I think it's at this time a bad time, and we should express our regrets as such, that as has, I believe you stated earlier, Mr Mayor, that earlier on it wasn't the right time. I can't remember the exact words. Well, we need to extend that sentiment that is not a good time at this time to attend, but there may well be a time in the future. So once again, I reluctantly don't support the motion. I support the spirit of the relationship. It's just that we can't manage to attend at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Mason.
Mr Mayor, point of order. I've just observed acting CEO Karina Filan take a photo of me in the chamber. Can I please clarify that photography is not allowed?
Are you okay?
You're very quick on the defence, aren't you?
No, that's inappropriate, Councillor Cadwell. You've asked a point of order. It was clarified. Thank you.
I want absolute guarantee that no photograph was taken of me, because you took your camera
you've been given guarantee.
Pointed it at me and took a photo.
Secondary confirmation from city officers.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mason, are you finished?
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. All right, we'll say a few words on that one as well. There is risk in whatever we do here. If we don't go to UNESCO, our membership is at risk. The economic impact that UNESCO brings to us is at risk. We've had community members here in the audience incredibly proud of being a UNESCO City of Design. There have been multiple calls in front of us sitting in this chair asking for us to build a museum or a centre dedicated to this status and what it does, what we offer, and what brings people to our region. We have festivals in collaboration with the creative community sectors all around us. The Chamber of Commerce, Committee for Geelong, peak advocacy bodies, they all support this designation and what it means to us as an international city of design. By turning our back on that, there has serious ramifications, economic ramifications. In Korea as well. You know, we have businesses in Korea. We have baseball teams in Korea who are willing to invest 6 figures into our stadiums here. But they want us to show the same faith. that they, as heavily as they are investing in Geelong in so many facets, all they want for us is to go there and to show interest in them as well, to forge these relationships and to show our commitment. There's money being left on the table here. And the savings to council are negligible if we don't go. But the economic benefits of investing in these relationships, of having that investment, the empowering of economic benefits here is substantial. Incredibly so. But we've all made our points. Any councillors wish to comment? I don't believe on an alternative, well, you actually do get the right to play on a motion here, so if I go back to Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Look, I don't know if words are, if people are actually listening. Look, you can't be part of the world if you're going to shut the door to it. And I can't make it more simpler to the council group than that. You know, we can't commit to say we want the world to come to us and we're not prepared to actually show any tangible commitment back to the world. And that's what's actually being decided here tonight. It's got nothing to do with the financial. I mean, $20,000 is all that's needed, and in fact, it's very cheap for an international business trip. This is actually is a very sad indictment on us if we don't support our strategic commitments and our participation in being a community that embraces the world. And that's essentially, I mean, only less than 4 weeks ago we supported Councillor Maloney in endorsing her to travel
Point of order,
internationally.
Councillor Aiken did not support that motion.
Sorry?
You specifically didn't support that motion, sorry.
That's
Just
right.
wanted to clarify.
No, that's clarification, but the council did pass that motion.
So yeah, look, it's disheartening that we're not understanding clearly the implications of what's actually occurring tonight, and that is really sad because people's livelihoods will be at stake, and it will have diplomatic implications for us as well too, in terms of how we actually how we recover from the reputational damage that will occur if a no vote actually does go ahead tonight. If the issue was money, well, we've saved a bit of money by reducing the breadth of the trip. If the issue is you don't support Councillor Sullivan being the person that travels, please remember my point that this is actually about the office of the mayor. It's got nothing to do with the personality of who is the person that is in that role and responsibility. And we've actually already, the mayor's already knocked back a previous international opportunity, and the group actually supported that decision collectively. It wasn't brought before the council chamber because collectively we said it wasn't the appropriate time to actually do it. Now is the appropriate time because we do have to fulfil our UNESCO responsibilities and attend the AGM. And I don't want to do anything that jeopardises the Hanwan opportunity that my community is going to significantly benefit from out at the Avalon precinct. Yes, they'll probably still go ahead, but they will be confused. They'll actually be very confused about how they actually deal with the council going forward, and they certainly will be confused about the commitments that they're starting to make in the local community by sponsoring the community and arts and other things as well too, because essentially, as I said at the start of this closure of this particular debate, you know, like we're shutting the door to them. We're not welcoming them. I mean, like we've spoken tonight at the start of tonight's meeting about being a welcoming community, and here's a great opportunity to actually show us that we are embracing the position that we have globally, but we're choosing not to.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. And I will just reinforce that I've received advice that we will be in breach of our obligations to UNESCO if we don't go. Therefore, that agreement, everything it's built on, is up in the air, and able for either us or UNESCO to walk away from, and all the good work that officers do. The entire economic development team. With that, I'll put the foreshadowed motion to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Motion is lost.
Mr Mayor, point of order. I'd like to call for a division, please.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell, as you don't need to call point of order, you can just ask for divisions. I'll put that division. All those who are in favour? Deputy Mayor Aiken, Councillor Asher, Mayor Sullivan. All those against? Councillor Hathaway, Councillor Cadwell, Councillor Murray, Councillor Mason, Councillor Maloney. Item number 6.
Just before you do, Mr Mayor, have you got another alternative, Councillor Aiken?
I actually didn't foreshadow an alternative motion. I've done it once already, and I don't believe anybody else has either.
No, this matter of council is now concluded. Item number 6, the Art and Heritage Collections Policy, moved by Councillor Cadwell.
Mr Mayor?
Yes, seconded by Councillor Murray. Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This policy sets out Council's commitment to and the key principles for the development, management, preservation, access and disposal of the city's arts and heritage collection in line with Australian and internationally recognised standards. And the key points are as follows. The Council acknowledges its role as caretakers of the collection and its responsibility for governance and administration, preservation and decision-making in relation to this collection. The city has been collecting art and artefacts since 1849. The collection is comprised of more than 20,000 items and is valued at more than $31 million. It's a diverse collection and it has several sub-collections. These are the Geelong Indoor Collection, with 550 objects which are managed by council staff and 1,000 which are managed by the Geelong Heritage Centre staff. The Geelong Naval and Maritime Sub-Collection, part of which is managed by the Geelong Naval and Maritime Museum Association. There are 7,276 objects with the location and ownership confirmed, and of these 52% belong to the council and approximately 2,600 of those are medium to high local or state or national significance. The Old Geelong Jail sub-collection with 218 objects with an approximate value of $10,000. The National Wool Museum collection with 8,500 objects with an approximate value of $8 million, and the Public Art sub-collection which has 320 objects and an approximate value of $13.5 million. And the purpose of tonight's item is simply to endorse this collections policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murray.
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Any other councillors to make comment? If not, I'll just say that as former portfolio holder for creatives and arts and culture, this is an incredibly important policy, one that a lot of good work has gone to for a very, very long time. We have some amazing collections around Geelong in terms of regards our Geelong Naval, Maritime Sub-Collection, the Old Geelong Gale, and National Wool Museum, and many, many more. In fact, in regards to heritage, the Geelong Heritage Centre is constantly being approached by members of our community who have items of value they found in the homes of their own, or people, family members before them. And they're always coming up and saying, what is this something? Would you be interested in this? It could be newspaper clippings from 1927 or so. But there's always something about heritage, something interesting articles around our city. It could be Great Uncle Bob's old butterfly collection from 1890. There's so many great things, as I said, that people from our community do collect. And what we've seen here is that keeping collection of our historical items, of our arts items, is expensive these days. These items need to be looked after. And this policy, it goes wide, it goes far, and it shows significant for what we have right here in Geelong. If there's no further councillors to comment, Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I also have been very much involved over the years in the arts and culture domain, and I commend the work done by officers on this and understand that the great difficulties there are in conserving all of the items that we have, and at times we have far more items that can be conserved. There's very many items that are precious on one level, but on a curatable museum type standard are not at that level. There are very many difficult decisions to be made about the very many precious items that we do have in this city. And there are ideas that the collections can be dispersed throughout the community, as well as having some of these items well centralised. In summary, I really commend the work done by our officers and various councillors on this, and do hope that in perpetuity we do have some collections and some wonderful items that we can show future generations.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. No further comments. I'll go back to Councillor Cadwell to close. Thank you. Vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Number 7, councillor appointments to portfolios and committees. Alrighty. I'm happy to move that one as Mayor, and I'll have that ask Deputy Mayor Aiken to second that. So we've got here the full as read on the council. We revoke and we adopt the new one for chairs and deputy chairs and appoint councillors until otherwise stated. I do believe there was still a vacancy in that, this is really to appoint officially Councillor Hathaway to our new portfolios, being chair, and then I think what needs to be added here is deputy chair to the multicultural. That's why we insert in there. And we had a late nomination for Councillor Murray to the CEO Employment and Remuneration Committee. That's one point forth. We went through a similar thing earlier this year, and that's one there going forwards. So I'm happy to throw over to Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Look, it's a procedural motion. Essentially, we do have to pass this in a council chamber, and essentially the main beneficiary of this is actually Councillor Hathaway. The vacancy created from my stepping down of inclusion and care so that Councillor Hathaway could become the portfolio chair for that area is actually being endorsed tonight by the council group.
Thank you. Other councillors to comment? I'll put to the vote to close. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Item number 8, planning authorisation council to staff, moved by Councillor Mason, seconded by Councillor Cadwell. Councillor Mason?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is also a procedural motion where we have the power and the requirement to delegate authority. In this case, it's a planning authorisation for Tracy McCook. And under this instrument, it's under the section 147.4 of the Planning Environment Act. We're to appoint the officer for the purposes of the Planning Environment Act 1987 and the regulations made under that act. So I put the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Cadwell?
I don't have anything further, thank you.
Do any councillors wish to comment? Councillor Mason?
Nothing further to add.
Thank you. Put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Item number 9, review of council to members of council staff delegations. Moved Councillor Maloney, seconded Councillor Contell. Councillor Maloney.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. The review of council to members of staff council staff delegations, which this motion is to essentially delegate to officers, council officers who are acting in particular duties. My laptop's died, so I won't read it off verbatim, but the instrument is to be signed off by the Chief Executive Officer and to come into force after this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. Councillor Contell.
Very well said, Councillor Maloney. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to comment? Councillor Maloney to close.
Nothing further.
Thank you. I'll put that to the vote then. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Right, section 4, moving into record of informal meetings of councillors. I need a mover and a seconder for this. Moved Councillor Mason, seconded Councillor Contell. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? That is carried. Item number 5, planning delegations. Can we have a mover and second for the planning delegations in front of us? Moved Councillor Contell, seconded Councillor Maloney. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Section number 6, we're looking towards confidential here. We have an item here, 5.1, Audit and Risk Committee Summary Report. Can we have a mover and seconder to consider this matter in confidential sessions? I'm happy to move that, seconded by Councillor Contell. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Carried. All right, we're now going to consider the remaining agenda items in the confidential section of our meeting. May I please have a mover and seconder to close the meeting to the public so we can consider these items, or item. Moved Councillor Asher, seconded Councillor Hathaway. You've got to be careful with scratching here. We'll count it as a vote there. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? That is carried. I'd like to now thank both our virtual and in-person gallery member, Tamal Knight. Thank you for attending all the way to the end, sir. It's greatly appreciated. The interest in the whole way through the process. Everybody online, everybody who was here in today, thank you. As I say, grassroots community government is all about community, and that's what we have seen